Knock knock. Who's there? You? And I'm thrilled about it. If this is your first time here, make it official. Subscribe and send this video to someone who deserves a little joy today. And please, tell me where you're watching from. I collect locations like other people collect stamps. Let's get rolling. I got in from Austin just after midnight on Friday. The cybersecurity summit had wrapped up ahead of time, so I managed to catch an earlier flight. I thought arriving early might be a pleasant surprise for Julia. Things between us had felt distant lately, and I hoped this gesture might bridge the gap. No big gestures, no dramatic declarations, just me showing up unannounced, like I used to. As far as she knew, I wasn't due back until late Sunday. When the wheels touched down, I was drained but buzzing with anticipation. I skipped grabbing a bite and drove straight home, a grin playing on my lips the whole way. I imagined how she might react, maybe laugh in disbelief, maybe even tear up a little. But I'd read the situation wrong. When I pulled up at 12:43 a.m., the house was pitch black. No porch light, no light seeping through the bedroom curtains. That's when the first warning bell rang. Her car wasn't in the driveway. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was at her sister's place, or maybe she'd gone out for a late-night drive. But then I noticed the garage door was standing wide open, which was completely out of character. Julia never forgot things like that. I unlocked the front door and stepped into a house that felt frozen. No flicker from the TV, no music playing, not even the quiet hum of the fridge. It had been unplugged. The air was still, dense. Standing in the hallway, I took out my phone and dialed her number. She answered on the third ring. "Hey, babe," she murmured, sounding half asleep. "Did I wake you?" I asked. "Yeah," she replied with a yawn. "I was already out." "In our bed?" I asked. "Of course. Where else would I be?" she said without missing a beat. I stayed silent for a moment. I was only a few steps from our bedroom, and I knew it was empty. "Okay," I said gently. "Just wanted to hear your voice." "That's sweet," she whispered. "See you Sunday?" "Yeah. Good night." "Good night." I ended the call and stood motionless in the dark hallway. The silence didn't just sound empty. It felt devoid of everything familiar. There was no basket of half-folded clothes, no novel left open on the sofa, no sandals kicked off by the door. Julia wasn't there, but she'd just spoken to me as if she were lying beneath our comforter, half asleep in our bed. I wandered into the living room. It looked untouched, almost staged. The throw pillows were lined up perfectly. The coffee table gleamed, except for one detail. A glass sat at the edge of the side table. Scotch, neat, half full. Neither of us drinks scotch. I leaned in, smudges on the glass, fingerprints. Then I saw them, a pair of men's dress shoes partly hidden under the bench by the laundry room. Expensive looking. Italian leather worn at the edges, about a size 11 or 12. One of the soles still had a bit of dried mud clinging to it. Suddenly my thoughts shifted, not to panic, not even to anger, but to precision. I recognized those shoes. Mitchell Rogers, a mid-level analyst who worked with Julia. He wore them to a dinner party at our place a few months ago and made a show of pointing out how pricey they were. That kind of vanity sticks in your memory. I didn't touch anything, just stood there, taking it in. His shoes under our bench, a scotch neither of us poured, a wife pretending to be tucked in bed while I stood in an empty house. I backed out quietly, locked the front door, and returned to my car. If she wanted the house tonight, she could have it. I had another plan forming. I found a small Airbnb just a few blocks away and checked in. I lay on the bed fully clothed, staring at the ceiling, not hurt, not furious, just thinking. Julia still believed I was out of town. That assumption worked in my favor. By the next morning, I had a plan. No outbursts, no accusations, just undeniable truth, the kind that speaks for itself. I began making calls, each one measured, composed. First was Melissa Lane, Julia's best friend from their college days. I told her I was planning a casual backyard dinner for Julia on Saturday to recognize her recent charity work. Nothing elaborate, Just friends, some good food, a few lights. Melissa was immediately on board. Next, I called Emma, Julia's sister. Gave her the same story. She agreed right away, said she'd bring wine, and that Julia would be touched. Perfect. Then I called Danielle Rogers, Mitchell's wife. We weren't particularly close, but we'd had dinner together once, so the call wouldn't seem too strange. Danielle, hi, it's Samuel, I said warmly. Well, hi, this is a surprise. I'm putting together something small for Julia, I explained. Just family and close friends. Would love for you to come. That's really thoughtful, she said. Julia deserves something nice. I was hoping Mitchell could come too, I added casually. There was a pause. Then, he's in New Orleans. Business trip, left Thursday. Right, I said smoothly. Yeah, she mentioned that. Tell him I said to hurry back if he can. We'll see. I ended the call. Mitchell had lied to her too. Even better. Saturday arrived quietly. I stayed away from the house. Julia had no idea I was nearby. I wanted everything to look like a simple surprise, a husband organizing something kind for his wife. No conflict, just a carefully set scene waiting for the truth to reveal itself. By midday, I sent a group text to the 16 guests I'd invited. Be there by 6. Park on nearby streets. Enter through the back gate. Julia can't see any cars out front. This needs to stay a surprise. Nobody questioned it. Replies came fast. Thumbs up, hearts, excitement. At 1 p.m., I messaged Julia. Just a heads up. I had something sent to the house tonight. Any chance you could be there around 8 to sign for it? I sent the message quickly, not giving myself time to overthink it. About 5 minutes later, she replied, with Emma all day, but yeah, I'll be home by 8. No questions, no pause, just certainty, steady and trusting, as if she hadn't caught the subtext. I left it unanswered. By mid-afternoon, I was already inside, having slipped in through the side entrance. I made sure everything looked untouched, lived in, but not disrupted. Exactly at 6 o'clock, the first guests began arriving, precisely on time. I guided them in through the back gate one by one, in silence. No one raised their voice. A few even slipped off their shoes as if they were entering something sacred. They thought this was a quiet gathering, a show of respect. They didn't yet know they were standing at the edge of someone else's undoing. By 7:45, the backyard was full. Every single person had come. I kept checking my watch, even though I didn't need to. Julia had said she'd be home by 8. I stood in the kitchen, lights off, curtain cracked just enough to watch the front entryway. My phone was ready in my hand, camera app open, not to broadcast, only to record. At 8:06, I heard the front door open. Julia stepped inside, glowing with a kind of lightness I hadn't seen in years. It wasn't her usual post-work exhaustion. It was playful. She wore a soft white blouse and that lipstick shade she saved for nights when she wanted eyes on her. Trailing her was Mitchell, laughing and holding a bottle of red wine. He rested his hand low on her back as they walked into the living room. She kicked off her shoes and tossed her bag onto the table. Then he leaned in and kissed the side of her neck. That was when I drew the curtain wide and opened the sliding glass door. No words, just the scrape of the door cutting through the silence. Julia turned toward the sound, her body stilled like she'd seen a ghost. Her eyes met mine, then slid past me to the faces gathering outside. Melissa, Emma, Danielle, all standing there, stunned, like they'd wandered into someone else's home. Mitchell stepped back instantly. Danielle surged forward, shock twisting her face. "Are you kidding me?" she shouted. Julia swayed, grabbing the counter like it might keep her upright. No one moved. They didn't need to. The truth was already echoing through the room. She opened her mouth, trying to speak, but nothing came. Her gaze darted from me to Danielle, to the crowd outside, desperately searching for a lie that might still hold weight. But there wasn't one. "Samuel," she whispered. I didn't respond. I just pulled out my phone, tapped a button, and let the audio play. Her voice rang through the Bluetooth speaker I had set up earlier. "I'm already in bed." Then, "In our bed?" And finally, of course, where else would I be at this hour? Her tone was soft, sleepy, practiced, clear enough for everyone to hear. Danielle staggered back like the words had struck her. She turned to Mitchell. "You told me you were in New Orleans." He stumbled. Danielle, wait, I didn't—" She cut him off. "You didn't what?" Julia stepped forward, palms up, as if she could physically block the damage. "This isn't what it looks like," she said, voice trembling. Emma just stared at her, blank and hurt. "You lied to all of us," she said softly. Julia looked at me, her hands shaking. "Can we talk, alone?" I shook my head. No speeches. She stood there, frozen, trying to gather the pieces as they shattered. Some guests started whispering farewells. Others walked away in silence. Julia stayed in the center of the room, makeup running, fingers clenched into her arms like she was trying to keep herself from falling apart. Mitchell edged toward the front door like a man seeking the exit in a burning building. And me? I poured a drink. Didn't touch anything else. Just sat at the counter, sipping quietly. Eventually, Julia stopped trying to talk. The moment was over. The house emptied out like the end of a show. One scene left. Just her, me, and the low, steady hum of the air conditioner. She didn't move. Her blouse was creased. Her arms folded tight across her body, holding in what was left. I stayed silent, finished my drink and set the glass down gently. "I never meant for any of it," she said at last, barely a whisper. I looked at her. "It got away from me. It wasn't serious, just a stupid mistake." "One of those?" I asked calmly. She hesitated. "You've been distant, exhausted. Sometimes it felt like you weren't even here." I nodded. "So you opened the door to someone else, literally." She stepped closer. "You have no idea how lonely I've been." "And what do you think I'm feeling now?" I asked. "Grateful it wasn't worse?" "That's not fair," she snapped, voice rising with a crack. "You don't get it." I rose slowly from my seat, still composed. "You didn't do this because you were lonely. You did it because you thought you'd never get caught." She winced. "You lied to my face in our house. That wasn't a slip-up, Julia. That was deliberate." Her shoulders dropped. "I still love you," she said quietly. I met her gaze. "Then you should have guarded what we built, but you didn't." She reached out for me. I stepped away. "You brought him into our space," I said, "and then lied over the phone, pretending you were here next to me in our bed." "I didn't know how to fix it," she murmured. "You didn't even try." The silence that followed was heavy, total. "I'm not shouting, Julia," I told her, "because this is already over." Her lips parted again, but she had no more words. I walked past her, took the keys from the hook near the door, and left her standing in the quiet she'd created. I didn't sleep in the house that night, didn't pack, took nothing with real meaning. I just walked away. I stayed at a small Airbnb for the next 3 nights, let the dust settle, gave it space to breathe. Julia never called. She didn't text. Not at first. On Wednesday, she showed up at the front door of the rental. She must have followed my location through the settings we still hadn't turned off. She looked smaller somehow, her posture tense and hunched, like she'd already braced herself for what was coming. She didn't try to step inside. Instead, she stayed at the threshold and asked softly, "Can we talk?" I moved aside and let her in. "I'm leaving," she said. "I found somewhere I can stay for now. I'll be out before the weekend." I didn't respond right away, so she kept going. "I know what I did," she admitted. "I know I destroyed something that can't be fixed. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I couldn't go without telling you I'm sorry. Really sorry." Her tone was steady, almost as if she'd practiced the words beforehand. Maybe it wasn't for me at all. Maybe it was her guilt trying to sound like remorse. "You probably think it lasted longer than it did," she added. "But it didn't. It was just that night. That was the first time." "That doesn't make it any better," I said. Her eyes dropped to the floor, and she nodded. "I know." The quiet that followed pressed down on us, heavier than anything else either of us could say. Then she asked, "Do you hate me?" "No," I told her. But I don't trust you. And without that, there's nothing left. She didn't argue or explain. She didn't break down. She only nodded again, whispered goodbye, and walked down the steps without once turning back. 3 weeks later, I heard from Danielle Rogers. Her message was short. Thanks for saying something. We met over coffee, not to comfort each other, but to make sense of it all. Two people standing in the wreckage of the same disaster. She told me she'd filed for divorce, sold her house, and moved in with her sister. She wasn't looking for pity. She wanted the truth to sit in the open where it belonged. So did I. Truth hurts, but it's sharp and clean. Lies fester in the shadows. I never went back to that house. 6 months later, I sold it. I stayed at my job, took time off when I had to, and rebuilt piece by piece. People sometimes ask why I didn't lose my temper, why I didn't scream or lash out. The answer's simple. When you already know the truth, and they're standing there lying anyway, there's no reason to raise your voice. Silence says everything they won't.